day here in St. John's, Newfoundland. What better day to cozy up in your own personal winter chalet and take in some incredible short films? What do you think, Ellen?
Amazing
Sound
short
good to
films,
you?
and such a huge variety on this one program today. I
Yeah,
don't know. I don't know
it's
how that happened, but
it's a
it's
great.
I kind of love how random everything is.
We've got a little bit of comedy, a little bit of drama,
Yeah,
and everything in between. Today we have uh, Mute from Constance Hilton. We have Walking the Fence Line from Jesse Foster. We have Roller Coaster from Marianne Ogalu. We have Video Dating from Chrissy Green. And we have Mum's the Word from Ed
Tennessee Chuck.
Tedesichuk. I'm sorry, Ed. I don't know why I struggle with your last name. He is our tech director, so it's especially that.
Yeah.
But yes, so we have some of the filmmakers from today, and then also we're also going to be talking to Jason Rogerson, who made Furball. It's actually playing tomorrow today, but so we're going to talk to some of the filmmakers that I just mentioned as well. And I think without further ado, I'll just jump into it, and I will say hello to Constance Hilton, the director of Mute.
Hello.
Hi, Constance. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing quite well. Very excited to talk about your film. Right off the bat, one interesting element of your film is that it's adapted from a Stephen King short film. Yes.
It is.
Yes.
Yeah. So I got the rights to that through his Dollar Baby program, which is for new and emerging filmmakers. You get his rights for $1, and it's amazing.
Yeah, what a great. I had never heard of that before until you mentioned it, and I was like, that's incredible. What a kind offering from him to filmmakers.
Yeah, it's so generous.
Yeah. And what about that story in particular resonated with you to want to adapt it?
To me, I think it was the sort of ideas of who gets a voice, whose stories we believe, whose stories we don't believe, how stories can have different layers of truth to them. I thought was all quite interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's the film in such a short time creates all these layers of mystery, and I don't want to spoil anything, but thing like right from the beginning you can kind of tell like something's not quite right here. Can talk about in the adaptation process or bringing it to the screen. What did you have in mind, like keeping into a short format, that kind of mystery and that sort of stuff?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to admit, like, writing is not something that I find very comfortable, which was part of why I wanted to adapt something. Like, I have worked for about a decade as a boom operator, and I've read a lot of scripts, but this was my first time writing one. So how I attacked it was basically I took the short story and kind of did a transcription of sorts, and then really just started shaping the scenes from there, like finding where dialogue made sense, where it didn't, how to fit these scenes into a way that made sense narratively for a short film as opposed to the short story format.
Yeah, and I think you did that really effectively. Actually, one question I also had, just because you just brought it up, is that I had noticed in your bio that you had mentioned that like professionally you work as a boom operator. I was just curious if coming from the world of sound at all sort of shaped how you approach sound in this film.
It helped because I hired a really great and talented mixer named Rochelle, who I've worked with a bunch and is lovely, and just kind of like handed it off to her because I knew that she could do it.
Right.
And I tried not to think about sound in my considerations for the film itself, but it's difficult not to, like I know how to rig a car to get good sound in a car. So it was in the back of my mind, but I tried to not make that consideration.
Yeah, another thing I was considering when I was rewatching it last night is that it's so like I don't know, it like kind of struck me last night that there's only really kind of like 2 or 3 locations in the film. Like
we had I think 4 locations total. We had like the inside the car and outside the car. We have the interrogation room of sorts. We have a motel and we have a church, and like that was it.
Was that did that come from the story, or was that kind of like was it economical or storytelling based, or a little bit of both?
It was definitely economical to a degree. When creating the script, so much of it happens in this sort of flashback. Like even in the short story, it's a lot of telling things that have happened previously. And there were sort of 2 ways that I could go about that. I could either keep that exposition quality or show the things as if they're real time. And I made a conscious decision to keep it mostly expositional so that it's keeps that telling of a story as opposed to seeing the story.
Yeah, and I think it's a real testament to your lead performer. What was her name? The
Cynthia.
actress? Cynthia. Like, I think it's a real testament to her that like that exposition feels very natural. Like it doesn't feel like it's hitting you over the head with exposition. It really feels like a woman kind of reckoning with all of these horrible things that have happened to her. Can you talk a little? Oh, sorry.
I sort of in my mind thought of it as like it's almost her personal therapy session, where there's all these really sort of complicated things happening in her life, and she just sort of has this opportunity to lay them all out to somebody who can't hear her, and it just sort of tumbles out and keeps on coming out of her, but then also has to tell it again in a very different scenario with this detective character.
Your lead actress, did you find her through just like an audition process, or was she someone you knew beforehand, or?
So we found Cynthia. She had worked with our DP Alana, who is from Newfoundland. She's in St. John's right now, actually.
Oh yeah. Okay, cool.
So Cynthia and Alana had worked together on a project before, and Alana was sort of the first person I had reached out to. I think I texted her one day and just said like, let's make a movie, and that was the beginning. So she had worked with Cynthia, and from the script was like, this is who we should get, and I think she'll be perfect, and she was.
Cool. Well, Cynthia, thank you Cynthia, you're not Cynthia, Constance, sorry. Thank you so much for chatting with us today. I'm just going to really quickly, I realize I normally have the video up and I haven't. I'm just going to check to see if there's any questions or anything.
No questions.
No questions.
I'm keeping it out of that.
Okay. Oh, perfect. Thank you, Ellen. Yeah, no did you have anything you wanted to add, Constance, before we move on?
No, I think you're good. Thank you so much for having me here.
Yeah, thank you. Again, it's a very tense film. I really implore people to go check it out. Yeah, so thank you so much for chatting with us today.
You too.
Okay, so next up, we are going to chat with Gordon Meehan, who is the director of Unofficial Selection. Gordon, hello.
Hi.
How are you? I'm doing
I'm
all
good.
right. I'm nice and cozy here in my winter chalet, having some chats with filmmakers, which I love to do. Gordon, could you talk a little bit at first just about the concept of Unofficial Selection, because it's a very interesting concept for a film.
Sure. Yeah. So Unofficial Selection, it's kind of I wanted to do kind of almost like an anthology of films in one short film. So it's kind of four shorts in one, through the lens of like kind of one a con artist who is fascinated by the world of film festivals, which I'm sure you know a little bit more about than even I would. But
it resonated.
Yeah, but yeah, that's kind of the overarching concept behind it. It was how films can motivate and inspire people.
Those mini shorts that kind of pepper the film and structure it, and then sort of start blending together in interesting ways. You talk about what did you have like a ton of ideas for these little short films that you kind of had to like cull down, or how did you develop those ideas?
Yeah, so originally the script was probably about like 30 to 35 pages long, which is much too long. Way too big of an undertaking. And so the shorts within kind of the main story were all fairly more in depth. So yeah, there was kind of like a process of like, okay, I need to, if this is going to be doable in the budget and the time that I have, I need to make it so these shorts all take place in one location each. And it can't be any more than like, I think it was the wedding short there's more actors in there, but that's also only one shot. So generally it was like 1 to 2 actors per short. And if there's going to be more than that, then we're not going to move the camera at all. Yeah. So kind of breaking it down to like the core of like what those shorts kind of, how they're connected. They're all kind of existential and in some ways. So it's like, okay, what's the kind of main theme that threads these together, and that's kind of how I tried to connect them. Yeah, so kind of like a combination of theme, but also just doability. Like what do I have the ability to actually achieve? So for instance, like the first short about the man who breaks into the pool, it was like that originally had much more, it was much more involved, and we saw like a desolate world in the first version of the script. And it was like, okay, let's break that down to like, he's only in a locker room because I don't have the time or the budget to figure out how I would do this post-apocalyptic world. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's been a real common theme with our chats over the past couple of days, is just kind of like how like limitations, force you to sort of push forward and make creative solutions and things like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, there's also I think there's a real yeah. Working for a film festival, at first I was like, what does this guy have against film festivals?
Yeah, you're coming after us.
Yeah, but it turns into I think a real sort of like tender love for storytelling and filmmaking. Can you talk a little bit about what your sort of inspiration for the film was? Like, does it come from a personal place, or yeah?
That's a great question. It's been so long. I feel like the process for this film, like with the first draft was written in 2017. So it's been a little while since I've thought about it. But if I remember correctly, which I should be able to, I guess that's not that long ago at this point. I guess I love shorts. I love films. And in some ways I feel like movie making and making films, it's kind of a con within itself. Like you're kind of tricking an audience into feeling something. So the connection between that and like making the main character a con artist and him finding this kind of this inspiration behind it, it felt like kind of a clear connection to me. And I like that idea of like exploring how something can be not real or con, but still have emotion and feeling and meaning. And playing with that idea of a con artist finding like a con that actually gives him like something besides monetary gain was really interesting to me. So that's kind of where that original idea came from. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a great way of putting it. Yeah, it feels to me like a real like ode to independent film, or even like as someone who assists in like our programming committee and stuff, and having them go through films, like that idea of you just like watching all this stuff, and like even the stuff that's like maybe not great, you just like learn to see like the love in it. And yeah, I think that really comes through really well in your film. Was there any part of the filmmaking process that was like maybe I'm wrong here, but I just get the vibe from the film that it was like a real sort of like, maybe I'm wrong, you could tell me if I'm wrong here, but that it was like a real sort of labor of love with like were you working with your friends a lot? I don't know. I get that vibe from the film that it's like a real sort of like friendly family affair type thing.
So the film community in Fredericton, where I'm located, is a pretty tight knit group. So yes, most of my art director and co-producer is like my fiance. It's like the lead actor is a close friend. It's like, yeah, everybody who's working on the film is like are close, but also at the end of the day too, like our crew is like 4 or 5 people. It's like there ended up always being like more actors on set than there is crew. It's generally try to keep the room small, especially when you're in a small room with like 6 actors. You can't have much more than like 4 people working at a time. But yeah, it's definitely and we try to use that to our advantage as much as possible, where it's like, okay, everybody is so comfortable with each other. How can we use this to push ourselves further and to try to reach new levels of our art? But yeah, I think you definitely you clued into something that's very true. Yeah, it's like most of everybody that worked on it was quite close.
Yeah, I mean, also, that's definitely true here in St. John's as well. In like smaller film communities, just everyone kind of gets to know each other a little bit. Gordon, thank you so much for chatting today. Did you have anything you wanted to add, or before we move on?
No, it's you folks at the Nickel Festival are doing a great job. It's great. So thrilled and thankful to be included. So thank you.
I just want to chime in and say the conceit of having the wedding video happening at the same time as the apocalypse was really great. It was perfect.
Thanks.
Yeah, no, it's
just
a really
rolling. I love you.
Yeah, it's a really delightful, inventive film. I encourage people, again, on this rainy St. John's afternoon, to go check it out. Thank you, Gordon. All right, we're now going to talk with Jesse Foster, director of Walking the Fence Line. Hello, Jesse.
Hey, Devin, how are you?
I'm doing quite well. How about yourself?
Doing well in Calgary.
That's yeah. So you were mentioning tornadoes. There's tornadoes.
Yeah, nice
there, right?
Tornado warning coming through for the second time this, I guess, past 2 weeks. It's been pretty interesting of a summer for here in Calgary with the weather.
Yeah, well, a tornado is quite intense, and I would also say your film is quite an intense little character drama. So if you could talk a little bit about where the story came from, what was what kicked it off for you?
So I think initially I've always kind of been raised in cities across Canada. However, I played lacrosse down in North Carolina, and that kind of spawned this fascination with small town America. And I lived in Northeast United States, and I've always been kind of compelled with the small town life. The main turning point in the film was actually brought from a dream that I had, without revealing too much to our viewers, if anyone's has seen it yet, but kind of just spawned from this one trigger point and kind of developed into kind of a larger story that I want to tell with multiple characters, multiple layers, and a few obviously twists and turns that may not be evident.
Yeah, I gotta say, I don't know if I've seen many other short films that have that kind of interconnected cast of like many people, and in 15 minutes you have to like establish all their characters and their relationship to each other. I think you do it very effectively, but it must have been a challenge writing that. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I think well, as my portfolio shows, I'm a very fond artist with non-dialogue driven cinema. I like the ability to not spoon feed, but let the audience kind of delve into what our environment is and what our characters are going through. So I took my last short film, Anxiety Number 5, and it's a one-hander and a dark thriller in a bathroom, and I wanted to kind of challenge myself with the ability to tell a strong, quick story with enough with enough characters to kind of prepare me for that leap to the next stage in feature film directing and writing. So yeah, it took a little while, but I feel like there's enough in the film that you really, you have to pay attention a little bit to grasp everything that's going on. So yes, it was definitely challenging to make sure that it was lined up properly.
Yeah.
I still don't feel like I've seen it, but I still don't feel like I need to watch it again. And I'd like when you find a movie that you need to watch again and that you feel compelled to watch again, that's I think you did something special there. So,
oh well, thank you very much.
Yeah. Where did you shoot it?
So,
sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say it's definitely not a comedy.
No.
So the length of the project took a little bit longer to get going. So we were originally going to shoot in Alberta. However, the entire cast that we got was all from Vancouver. So we kind of scrounged up all our resources, and our team and all my crew that I've worked with in the last 3 films were all out west. So we just said, let's go to them. So we ended up shooting in a small town called Yarrow, kind of a subdivision of Chilliwack. And I'll tell you, it was a pretty amazing experience because I literally drove around, found this little town, knocked on doors, and people just opened up and said, yeah, you can use our house, or you can use my car, or hey, I know this lady, she'll cook some soup for you, or hey, do you need pizza? Do you need sushi? How many people? Do you need a parking lot? And then just like this community opened up to us. And it was, we probably shot 7 days of film in 4 days. And it was pretty intense over 2 separate weekends back to back. I love the idea of it kind of being anonymous, Pacific Northwest town, kind of, you're near the water, but you're also in the mountains and the prairies. Originally, the idea was to be in a small Alberta town, but based on timing and circumstances, we ended up pushing it to the West Coast. And I think it really serves as a better environment for everybody.
Yeah, you mentioned earlier, one of my questions actually was whether or not you grew up in a small town or not. And you were saying
I did not. I'm a city boy with these delicate hands.
Yeah. But what so obviously, like, you spent some time in these small towns, but I think what your film really captures is the kind of, like, I mean, it's really what it's really about is these like very these connections and webs that are formed in these tight-knit communities. What attracted you about the like that kind of story?
Well, one of the biggest inspirations was In the Bedroom by Todd Field. And I actually saw that living in Northeast Massachusetts. And I think what I found was living in a 3,000 person small town is everybody knows everything about everybody. And if it's the good, the bad, and the ugly, who's doing what right and wrong, and who. And I always found it really fascinating because even in in a larger city scale, it is a small world, but not as small as these little pockets of people. And I just found it really interesting that there's a lot of secrets and a lot of dark stuff that goes on, and I kind of wanted to showcase that. I mean, not that it's always good, fun, heart. Again, it's not a comedy, but I just find it really interesting, the decisions people make and the positions they put themselves in the small town. Walking the fence line is obviously an allegory for the people that choose to not go beyond the fence, and they just want to stay contained in that life. And there's nothing wrong with that. It was just more for the characters I created. I found it interesting that they want to leave, but do they? You'll have to watch and find out.
Yes, and I do encourage people to. Jesse, thank you so much for speaking with us today.
No worries.
Do you have anything you wanted to add before we move on?
No, I just want to say thanks to you and the team for including Walking the Fence Line.
Yeah, you've had a film with us before, right? Am I remembering?
Yeah,
that correctly?
Anxiety Number 5 screened in 2016, and sadly, I've never been as far as Newfoundland, and I was really hoping to make the trip, but this is just as good. So I appreciate the hospitality, and best of luck to everybody screening today.
Yes, well, you're all welcome in my virtual winter chalet. Don't even have to leave your house. Thank you so much, Jesse. Really
thank you.
Appreciate it. Okay, next we're going to. All right, we're jumping to tomorrow now, and then we're gonna go back to the films of today. But we're gonna speak with Jason Rogerson, who is director of Furball, that is playing tomorrow as part of our family shorts. He was, so yeah, we're going to do that. Hi, Jason. Hello.
Hey, Devin, how are you?
I am very well. So obviously people haven't had a chance to see your film yet. But, you know, for anyone who's wondering what they should do tomorrow, how would you pitch Furball to them?
I guess if you like movies about relationships that involve a cat and a human, tune in for Furball tomorrow. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it is, I would say the star of the film is a cat named, oh, wait, hold on. I thought I wrote it down. What's the, Charlotte? Is that the name? That's the name
Yeah.
of,
Wow.
Yeah.
You did your research. That's good. Yes.
Yeah. Yes. Who does Charlotte, where does Charlotte live? Is Charlotte your cat?
Well, Charlotte lives with me now, but
Okay.
when I was shooting, Charlotte didn't live with me. So you know what happens when you direct people. Sometimes you have relationships. But actually, the cat is my girlfriend's cat.
Oh, okay.
Who we're in one place now, which is nice. So now Charlotte's living here along with 2 other cats.
That's so great. What was it like directing Charlotte? What was she was she hard to wrangle?
Well,
heard, if you will.
You can imagine I was pretty concerned when I wrote that and before we shot. And so I had a lot of contingency ideas of how we would get shots and maybe shoot her less if we needed to. But I think I really lucked out. Like the cat, Charlotte actually was, oh, come on. She's here right now.
Is she here? I was hoping.
Yeah,
I was hoping
is.
we got.
There she is. I'll just give you a little look at her, but she's still kicking. Anyway, we were really lucky. She kind of, did what we hoped she would do. There were times when, we had tricks where we had to, and my partner also, she was great helping me to do this, but like there were times she would be like out of frame down, just keeping the cat gently in one spot, and we would ring bells up here, and then I would be able to cross cut, her owner looking down at her and her looking up at him. So a lot of different, we did a lot of practicing before we shot it, but it went quite smoothly. We shot most of her scenes. It was a 2-day shoot. We shot most of the cat. We kind of went heavier the first day because I thought if this doesn't work, we're really going to have to sort of figure this out on the second day. So,
and
luckily
what?
We didn't.
Yeah, she gives a great performance. We're not doing awards this year, but if we did, Best Actress, easy, no problem. What made you want to tell this story? It is, there is this, it's the story about, like the kind of intersection between human relationships and pet relationships. What inspired you to tell it?
Yeah, well, so for some reason I've made several shorts, but I've never made anything with an animal in it. I was kind of working on a feature screenplay for a long time, an animated one, and there was a cat in it, and I adopted parts of that, but I've been curious to shoot a story with an animal. Probably always a cat more than a dog. I thought that might be more interesting. People love cat videos. Not why I chose a cat particularly, but I thought cats might be easier to work with, or this cat. But I wanted to, it was kind of a combination of that challenge, I suppose, but I also wanted to tell kind of like a personal story between roommates. And so then I kind of, the other idea was a larger kind of feature idea. And then the light bulb went off, and I thought, well, I could kind of have a bromance story between a cat and the owner. And so I just kind of took it from a relationship perspective, and it's kind of like about everybody feeling lonely and wanting to sort of like connect with somebody, and the need for connection. And without giving too much away, like, the protagonist, which is the cat, sort of has to make a sacrifice in order to share her owner with somebody new in the neighborhood. So it's kind of like, if you love something, set it free. So I wanted to kind of, once I had that discovery, I thought that makes telling a story with two roommates much more interesting to me, because it's only in a few locations.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's only in a few locations, but there's I found a really great attention to detail in your film, like right down to there's the POV shot from the cat that's the kind of like has the desaturated color blindness thing
Right.
built in.
Yeah.
You mentioned you were writing an animated film. Have you made animated films before?
No, not at all.
No, okay.
It's sort of a whimish kind of like I'll try to write the screenplay, but there was just parts of that sitting around that sort of informed this. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I just thought it was really interesting that you said that because this feels quite animated. Yeah. Can you talk a bit about like the design of the film or things you were thinking of visually when you were developing the story?
Well, I definitely wanted to have not just talking heads. I wanted to have the idea where we see the cat's perspective and go in real time next door for the cat to kind of go on a kind of a Mission Impossible type of mission. That was in there from the beginning because I wanted to make sure the cat as a protagonist had to do some type of action to sort of save the day. And so I thought, I'm never going to be able to shoot the cat doing what I want it to do. I have to go into the cat's perspective. So that was a bit of a challenge to finding a location where we could shoot and just do a single camera shot from one house to another house next door. Mm-hmm. A lot of friends came through, but sometimes it can be hard to find those locations. In fact, we sort of almost had the location a few times and it kept failing until like the very last minute. And then our producer and our sound designer live side by side. And I said, would you guys help? And he said, all right. So we went to that one.
So you're based in PEI, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. Can you talk a little bit about the filmmaking community in PEI?
Sure. Yeah, I'd love to. Yeah, it's really, I've been making films here now since probably, the early 2000s with different teams. And so I've had an opportunity to see it grow, but it's really started to blossom over the last few years. We, for the longest time, I think in the late 90s, we lost any type of media fund or tax credit we had, and things slowed down for quite a while. And there was a lot of lobbying from the film community and other champions in the government. And that was media fund was brought back a couple of years ago, but a year and a half ago now, I guess. And that's led to a whole lot of activity because we were at a point where there was a lot of people who were just ready to go, but they just needed a bit more in terms of resources. So we often collaborate with other provinces, particularly maybe in the Maritimes more so, I'd say, just for budgets to, help us with certain positions. But we've reached a point now where we're able to do our own thing, and we've got lots of good talent here in most of the key positions. So that's been pretty exciting. Like this short that was produced, it was the first round of something called Film Forward, which is kind of like Nova Scotia's got their program with 5 films. What's that called? I should know what that's called right now. So, it's just like a short film incubation program that they introduced. And that's happened again this year for the second year. Of course, things are a little delayed due to life and circumstances. So we were fortunate enough to garner a bit of funding through that program for this short last spring. And it's been amazing to see how it's kind of been traveling around, just because I think it's a quirky short, but very excited to have it in Newfoundland. Really excited. I've never had any shorts play there, so I was thrilled when I heard about this.
Yeah, we're delighted to have it. I think, again, this is playing tomorrow during our family shorts. But also I will say, they're family friendly shorts, but I do think this is a film anyone of any age could enjoy because it does deal with, adult relationships sounds weird, but you know what I mean.
I'm happy it's in this. I think it's a great place. You've programmed it, but it could fit other places. In some festivals, they put it into the comedy slot or, Yeah,
but I definitely really encourage people to go check it out tomorrow. Did you have anything else you wanted to add, Jason?
No, I don't think so. I just good luck with your festival, and thanks for including us.
Yeah, thanks. Well, thank you for letting us share your film. We're so excited to be able to. Okay, so we've just got one filmmaker left, and that is Marianne Agalou, the director, or sorry, not the director, the writer and star of Roller Coaster, which was made through the Nickel New Voices program, which we'll maybe talk about in a bit. But Marianne, hello. Oh, I think you're still muted, Marianne. Oh, Marianne, you're muted.
Oh, there you
Oh,
go.
you're good.
Hello.
You're good. We're good.
Hi.
We're good. Hi. How's it going?
Hi. It's going. Thank you so much for having us here today. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. We're so excited to be, sharing this film. And thank you for talking to us today. Was this the first? I didn't want to be presumptuous, but was this the first film that you've been a part of? This
Yes.
Roller Coaster? It was?
Yes, first ever. First ever.
So what drew you to want to work on a film?
I think it all goes back to how it all started. And I think it started with I knew I had something that drew me towards arts and culture, and that dates back to how I used to volunteer at the LSPU Hall in St. John's, Newfoundland. And on one of those nights after my volunteering session, that was where I met Ruth Lawrence.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a meet and greet session, and we started having a conversation. And she said, "Oh my God, you do have a story, and let's work together and create a platform for you." And that was how it all started. And I've never ever imagined that I would be a script writer or even much more an actor. But all of that happened in such a short while. This went back all the way to 2017, and it took me almost a whole year and 6 months to come up with my script. But today we are here, we have a script, we have a film, and we are right here having a conversation around it. So it was just my interest that I had with volunteering, and something else came out of it. Yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah. Obviously, shout outs to Ruth Lawrence, who is sort of the mentor and facilitator of the New Voices program, and also just an incredible community person in the community. She's great. So you mentioned that. So did you always intend to star and act in the film as well when you were writing it, or is that something that came later?
It was something that came later. So when I was writing the script, I had a particular frame of personality that I had in mind. I knew who I wanted to be the lead character. And when I was writing, I had a friend in mind when I was doing that. But unfortunately, she couldn't star in the movie. And then we did auditions. And then the lady who we auditioned for this lead character, she also couldn't make it at the time when we were shooting. And so Santiago, my director, turned around one evening and looked at me and said, "Marianne, I think we have a lead character." And I said, "What do you mean?" And he said, "You." And so I was like, "Oh, no. I never planned to be an actor. I only just wanted to write the script, and I don't want to be in front of the screen." And so it took us to retrace our steps. And then the training started all over, how to reword my script and how to act and all the rehearsals. And it was a lot of work, but it definitely paid off. Yeah.
My favorite parts of the film are like I love the sort of direct addresses to the camera at pivotal moments. I think it's such a quirky, fun thing, and it made me just wonder you don't have to talk about it too much if you don't want to, but how much of this story is personal and happens to you? If you want to, you don't have to if you don't want to, but.
No, I do want to talk about it. That's a very great question. And I remember when I was writing my script, I remember having this conversation with Santiago and Ruth, and I said, yes, I do want to tell it all. And so I would say that 95% of that film is nonfiction.
Wow.
95% of it is a personal story. The remaining 5% of it, we had to tweak it and adapt it in a way that the audience could relate to. But it was a script that when I initially wrote my first script, it was a 20-page document. And I remember Santiago looking at it and go like, "Oh my God, Maria, we need to trim this down." And so we cut and cut and cut and cut and cut until we had something refined that we could work with. And eventually, for us to shoot this movie, our script was a 7-page document, and it was something easy for them to roll with. So personal story, my story. But again, a little bit of it is fiction, but large majority is nonfiction. Yeah.
Yeah, I suppose maybe got a bit ahead of myself. Do you want to maybe tell people a little bit about what the film is about?
For sure. So Roller Coaster is basically highlighting some of the challenges that as an immigrant, we have to go through, especially as a young girl, female, an African descent. You're leaving home, you're not married, you're single, your parents have those fears. Are you ever going to find love where you're going to? And then you carry that weight on you, but yes, you're hopeful for the future that lies ahead of you. And then you have all of that drama happening in the meantime while you're trying to figure life out, right? And so this main character, Ada, arrives in Newfoundland, St. John's for the first time with no family ties, not knowing everyone, and she had to make a home out of St. John's, Newfoundland. And so that was where this story kind of like spiraled. I wanted to talk about some of the glorified moments that I had left behind in Nigeria, and then coming here and trying to start life all over again, and all the roller coasters that happened with trying to find love and trying to have a career and trying to, actually make something out of this new space where I find myself. And, I sort of wanted the movie not to have an end, to leave the audience wondering in terms of what's going to happen next. And so I think we sort of achieved that, because I wanted it to leave a questioning in the minds of the audience, to say, hey, that's what life is all about. There's definitely going to be ups and downs, but the good part of it is us having that positive mindset and knowing when to put a close to certain things and opening up that new chapter. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great way of putting it. It's a really fun. There's like, I don't know, it's like got everything. It's like a little, it's funny. It's also, like you can sense there's a real sort of like longing and drama in the film as well. I just got to see it last night, and I really enjoyed it. Just a couple more questions.
Thank you.
Santiago Guzman, who can you talk a little bit about what it was like? You already kind of talked about him sort of thrusting you into the limelight. But you can talk a little bit more about working with him?
Working with Santiago was super, super easy. And for us, we had a lot of connection because we were both first timers trying to do the thing we were doing for the first time. So I was a first time script writer. I was a first time actor. Santiago already had shot his own film. And then he was going to, for the first time in his career, be a film director. So that sort of allowed us to like talk about our fears and be vulnerable with each other, to say, we really want this to pull off. It's our first time and we're going to really make it count. And it was a lot of work. He was coaching, he was mentoring, because he's a full-time actor. And so I had to learn a lot from him when it came to acting and how to, bring the script to life. And a lot of rehearsals, late nights, but he did give it his all. And I remember on the day of the shooting, there was this wonderful picture we took where we both hugged and we both cried. And we're like, yeah, thank you for making this happen. But yeah, it was one of the most amazing things that happened to me. And I'm really grateful that we did come to an agreement that I wanted him to work on my film as my director, because again, I was more concerned about working with a director that could bring my story to life and understand my heart desires and interpret my emotions in the film. And I think he did that beautifully well.
Santiago is great. So I guess just my final question is, this was your first film. Are you hoping to make more? Was it a good process? Do you want to do it again?
I do want to do it again. As a matter of fact, I'm just writing a personal, another story that I have right now. But I'm not in a rush anymore to get it out. I'm just going to take my time, write it out, and then share it again with Ruth, and then see who would be willing to take on that challenge. But this is something that I'd love to do over again. I think I enjoyed it. And I think for me, it's just having that platform for us to tell our stories and, share that awareness and that, exchange between or across cultures for people to really understand what it feels like to be on that other part of the world and understand what it feels like to decide that you want to take a bold step to step out of your comfort zone and do things that are very uncomfortable. Yeah. So I'll do it all over again.
Well, we're so happy that you did it. We're so happy to be sharing this film, sharing your story. And so, yeah, thank you so much for chatting with us today.
Thank you.
To all of our filmmakers for chatting with us today. This is a really this is a great short program. So I really do implore people to go check it out over at nickelfestival.com for free. Everything is free every day. And yeah, tomorrow. So really quickly, just going over what we have on the docket for tomorrow. So we have we have a screening of sort of family-friendly shorts, includes some animation, some live-action stuff, even a couple documentaries. But that's if you're looking for something kind of like a nice afternoon watch, I think that's the perfect thing to do. And then perhaps later at night, we have Conejo, which is a feature film from Cuba about a dancer and her sort of bizarre, twisted relationship with a director. And accompanying that is a music video called Lucis Naturae by Richard Pickett. So yeah, something for the family, and then maybe something not for less so later.
Yeah, the rabbit movie looks really interesting. I haven't seen it myself yet. So
yes, it is. Yeah, I would definitely. That's one of our. I'm really excited about that.
Pretends to be a rabbit for an extended period of time and lives at someone else's house and pretending to be a rabbit for the entire time. Anyway,
that's tomorrow. Today, check out these great short films from these great short filmmakers. And I want to thank everyone for their time and wish you all a great afternoon.
Thank
you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a great day, everybody.
Bye. Thanks again.
Bye.